international travel and globalization are what they are.
Dr. Jason Kindrachuk is an infectious disease researcher and says if the new variant of MPOX arrives in Canada, the big question will be how quickly it can be contained.
The World Health Organization has declared monkeypox, or MPOX, a public health emergency of international concern. So does that mean we are headed back to lockdowns and restrictions?
Let's take a look. So this is an article from today.com. We're not going to read the whole thing because it was far too long, and we've extracted just the pertinent sections here for you.
But there is a link to the article in the description if you would like to read it. MPOX is caused by the MPOX virus, which is in the same family as the virus that causes smallpox, according to the CDC. The virus is split into two clades, 1 and 2. Clade 1 generally causes more severe disease and deaths, with past outbreaks killing up to 10% of those infected, according to the CDC. Clade 1 MPOX is endemic or regularly found in Central Africa. Clade 2, which caused the multi-country outbreak in 2022, tends to be the milder form. Dr. Onyema Ogabagu, an infectious diseases specialist at Yale Medicine, tells Today.com. Clade 2 is generally more transmissible, but rarely life-threatening. Over 99% of people infected with Clade 2 MPOX survive, per the CDC. Clade 2 MPOX is endemic in West Africa. However, a new subtype of Clade 1 MPOX called Clade 1b emerged in the DRC in 2023. The new strain, which appears to transmit through sexual networks, has spread rapidly in the DRC and is now being detected in other countries, the WHO said.
So just so everybody's up to date on the acronym, CDC stands for Center for Disease Control, and DRC is the Democratic Republic of Congo, and WHO is obviously the World Health Organization. Let's continue. Why did the WHO declare MPOX a global health emergency? The MPOX outbreak in DRC has already spread to at least 12 other countries in the African region, the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said in a release. In the past month, more than 100 cases of the newer Clade 1b MPOX were detected in 4 countries neighboring the DRC, which have never reported MPOX before. Burundi, Kenya, Rwanda, and Uganda, officials said.
So will MPOX cause another lockdown? When asked about the potential for MPOX lockdowns, Kurtzis says, quote, "There would be absolutely no reason to take that kind of measure," end quote. Answering the same question, Remoyne says, quote, "The answer is no. MPOX is not new like COVID. This is a known virus with tools already available to be able to control it, including vaccines. We've already brought a global outbreak of MPOX under control in 2022, end quote. A top WHO official expressed similar sentiments in an August 20th post on X, quote, "MPOX is not the new COVID," end quote, regardless of whether it's Clade 1 or Clade 2, Hans Kluge, WHO Regional Director for Europe, said.
And if you need to hear it one more time and what the mainstream media is saying about this, here you go.
Good news from the World Health Organization on the outbreak of the MPOX virus. The WHO saying MPOX is not the new COVID, even though it is considered to be a global emergency. So what exactly does that mean? CTV's Heather Wright is tracking that story for us. And Heather, bring us the details here. What are you hearing?
Well, Todd, first of all, this is not a new virus. A lot is known about MPOX, and also it does not spread as quickly as COVID-19. But there is not a lot known about this new strain, which has been detected outside of Africa. Since MPOX was declared a global health emergency last week, the new variant has been detected outside of Africa, with 1 case reported in Sweden. But today, the World Health Organization stressed this is not a repeat of early 2020.
MPOX is not the new COVID.
MPOX is a viral infection that causes lesions and flu-like symptoms. It's usually mild, but can result in death. The virus has been circulating in Africa for decades, with a new, more transmissible version emerging this year. While MPOX cases in Canada are on the rise, the new variant has not been reported here yet.
I don't want to be pessimistic, but international travel and globalization are what they are.
Dr. Jason Kindrachuk is an infectious disease researcher and says if the new variant of MPOX arrives in Canada, the big question will be how quickly it can be contained.
We will probably identify additional cases in multiple global regions. I think the big piece is going to be whether or not we see any ongoing human-to-human transmission within the community.
In Canada, MPOX is primarily transmitted between men who have sex with men and sex workers, with members of that group eligible for vaccination. In Africa, children are being disproportionately impacted, with officials saying 10 million vaccines are needed to meet demand. The company that manufactures the vaccine says it will decide this week whether to ramp up production.
Every week we don't switch over, we lose some of that capacity that we've been talking about.
Canada has pledged $1 million to help stem the spread of MPOX in Africa, though at this point, vaccines are not part of that commitment.
All right, so that's what the mainstream media was saying, and I didn't really like their report. And the reason I didn't like it is because they started off well in talking about the different classes, or clades as they call them, but then when they were talking about how it might come to Canada and how it spreads, then they stopped referencing the specific classes, because that's actually really important. And it's important because Clade 2, which is the non-lethal one,
less lethal anyways, much less lethal.
Only kills maybe 1% of people. That's been actually over in North America for a number of years. So that's not new. Now, what they're saying is, but, this other one, 1B, not a lot is known about it. Well, that's not really honest either, because they do know that it is very similar in genetic structure to, the other clades. It's part of the class of MPOX or Monkeypox. So they do know, a lot about it, but do they know, enough? Well, that's up for debate. They do know that it can be more lethal, but this variant is only really seen to be transmitted through sexual contact. And when they went back to, showing pictures of kids to scare the heck out of everybody, they're trying to conflate, well, that is the new variant. Unlikely. It's unlikely. What is more likely is that is the other variants that, can be, more easily transmissible. And I would actually said to Tanya, I said, that doesn't make sense. Why are they showing kids with, and citing the new one, which is sexually transmissible? And she said,
well, I said that there are other ways to catch MPOX. Number one, you can catch it by direct skin-to-skin contact with somebody who is infected and has open sores. So if you think of a parent maybe holding their child, it's possible that if they are infected and have open sores, that they can pass that on to the child. There's other ways to contact it, including contact with saliva, upper respiratory secretions such as snot and mucus, or other bodily fluids. If you are pregnant, you are considered immunocompromised, so you will catch it easier than, say, a normal non-pregnant adult. You can also catch it, like if you have sores that are open and you're sharing clothing or blankets with somebody. So these are all ways that these children can possibly catch it, especially since children generally don't have a robust immune system the way an adult would.
And other than the lesions and the sores, which are, in some cases very difficult to look at, from what they've said, most of the other symptoms are flu-like. So when you're looking at this versus COVID-19, is there any possibility that there's going to be a lockdown? It is highly, highly unlikely. And the federal government has even come out and said that there's unlikely to be any lockdowns as a result of this or any of those types of restrictions. So not to worry, everybody. You don't have to worry about something happening at least in the next 12 months as far as all of the tea leaves are being read by the folks in the WHO, the Trudeau government themselves, and even the severity of the actual virus itself. So,
well, and this is a illness that has been around for a long time. It's been around for several decades. Now, like all viruses, it is mutating, and that's why the WHO has declared a public emergency in regards to Clade 1b. But they are saying that Clade 1b primarily is spread through sexual networks. The Public Health Department of Toronto is saying that vaccines are available to eligible adults, and the most eligible adults at this time are men who have sex with other men, as well as sex workers. So it is primarily being spread, again, through sexual contact.
So if you fall into one of those demographics, do what's best for you in order to protect yourself, whether that's reaching out to your doctor or, your local health department, whatever you feel is needed to keep yourself safe. But I think we can all kind of exhale a little bit. There's not going to be any lockdowns coming, and there's not going to be need for all of us to join in another convoy to go to Ottawa, at least on this issue.